Well, that's another unfortunate result for the Pittsburgh Penguins with this one. 3-2 loss to the Carolina Hurricanes. For today's episode, we're going to get into everything that transpired in that game, from that awful non-call in overtime that involved Bryan Rust and Seth Jarvis, to the awful power play, to a 6-on-5 goal somehow in this economy, to Tristan Jarry's gaff on the second goal. That's all coming up right after this drop.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a late Tuesday night episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can also follow the show's Twitter at @NLSR Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. Again, as you all can see, I am in the office of the upstairs part of my Richmond house, and we are T-minus less than 48 hours away from officially moving to the Steel City. This was the last Penguins game that I have to fully recap here down in Richmond. But Hurricanes 3, Penguins 2, a game that the Penguins could have had in overtime. They were kind of lucky to get a point, but they kept their playoff spot, but they just were not able to get over the hump as they dropped this one 3-2 in overtime. I got the score right. I just didn't get the result right. So I'll get half credit, but next time I do one of those predictions on a crossover, I'm going to pick the Penguins to lose, to say the least. But to start off this episode, we got to start with what happened in overtime. So 2-2 game, a little over a minute or a couple of minutes into overtime. And Bryan Rust has the puck. And, Rust has struggled a lot this season, definitely playing some of the worst hockey I think I've ever seen him play, to be honest with you. And he just comes in there and he comes into the offensive zone, decides to button hook back, and then goes directly to the boards for some reason, where there's two other Penguins just sitting there. And I'm like, that's the play that you're making? I just really did not understand it. And yes, what Seth Jarvis did, that is textbook boarding. Should have been called. You saw the Penguins bench furious. You saw Mike Sullivan do a beautiful Bruce Boudreau impression right there. That is a penalty, 100 out of 100 times. If you don't think that is a penalty, get your eyes checked. Stop being biased towards your team, to Carolina fans mostly. I think even an objective hockey observer could see that was a penalty. Wasn't called. Carolina, the Hurricanes go back the other way, 2-0. The Penguins lose. But the thing was, yes, it was a penalty, and yes, the bench was furious, but why did all of your controllers just disconnect? Why is Bryan Rust just kind of standing there? Why is Jeff Petrie kind of going after Seth Jarvis in that situation? Jeff Carter, he's also nowhere near the play. He's 10 leagues behind both Carolina players that came into the offensive zone on a 2-0. You got to keep playing in that situation. That is just inexcusable by the Penguins to do that. I'm sorry. You can be mad at the officials all you want. Trust me, I was a little miffed as well, just because NHL officiating, let's face it, it stinks. I don't know what, I've said that on almost probably every episode that I've recorded for this show. I've been doing the show for over 3 years now at this point. NHL officiating is a tire fire. Sometimes you're going to get the benefit of the doubt with some calls. Sometimes you're not. That's life in the NHL. The Penguins got boned tonight. Yeah, you can be upset, but you got to keep playing in that situation. If they actually keep skating there, the Hurricanes probably don't score. So, I'm upset that the officials missed that call, but I'm also just as upset, if not more upset, that the Penguins their controllers disconnected like you're playing NHL 22. And you give up a goal with just a few seconds left in overtime when you're playing online versus or HUT or something like that. Just a really stupid sequence to end the overtime session. I thought the Penguins were the better team in the third period. And honestly, the overtime period before that chance, both teams were kind of just playing keep away with the puck. There really wasn't much going on overall until that play. And then, first team gets a chance, it goes in. And again, it's unfortunate that the team could not get the result in this one, but again, you got to keep playing to the whistle, and you can't be being babies and looking towards the refs all the time for calls and all that. And because, and again, I'll say this for the fifth time, you're allowed to be upset, but you got to keep playing. That's the reality of the situation. And again, Bryan Rust, he's really struggled this season. He is not living up to his contract right now. I don't think that's bad to say or anything. And just the play that he made to even get over to that situation to begin with, really stupid, in my opinion. I don't know why he's even skating the puck over to the board. It's just a really brain dead play, I thought, overall. So those are my main thoughts on the overtime, the overtime situation. It was, again, was it a very awful way to lose? Yes. Have I moved on? Also, yes. The team got a point. They scored a 6-on-5 goal, which they have not done this season so far. They believe they only scored 1 or 2 6-on-5 goals last season. This is a team that struggles a lot in that situation. So I honestly will consider that a win for the Penguins tonight. I'm going to touch on that a little later on in this episode. But yeah, just fortunate ending. And it was a really great game to watch. Outside of that, just tire fire. And I actually did see a funny tweet. I think this came from a Hurricanes reporter, where it was like, the team that is victimized in that situation, they will always say that's a penalty, while the team that committed the infraction will be like, well, his body wasn't all the way turned, which it was. I don't know how you can argue against that. Bryan Rust's whole entire body was facing the boards, and he went head first into it. That is a boarding call. Earlier this year, Brayden Tanev got a misconduct for that exact call. There is no inconsistency when it comes to league officiating. There isn't. Like there has never been any consistency with the officiating in this league. It gets worse every season. And people talk about it, especially in the playoffs, and nothing gets fixed. So I'm kind of just tired of talking about it at this point. If I was 17 or 18, I probably would have blew a gasket, but I'm 25 now. I do a podcast and I try to be as objective as I can. And I just, it's just not worth for me just getting enraged about it. They got a point. They're still in a playoff spot. They have stuff to fix, yes, but at the end of the day, we still got the loser point out of that. But still a lot more to get to for this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. In case you all haven't noticed, so one of the other people on the Restream account is actually using it right now to record their episodes. So I'm recording this via Zoom. So I will not have my wonderful Bet Online little promo for you all. Just pretend that it is there. And also I cannot wait to get my own streamer account. That is what we are going to be getting sometime next year. But before we get to our next segment, which I'll be talking about the game as a whole, who stood out to me and all that, Bet Online is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. You can get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer and esports. We've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. You can head to the website today or use your phone to learn more. That is BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, we're back in this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at Larso Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. So let's get into just the overall performance from the Penguins tonight. If I just move my chair a little bit here. Nope. There we go. There we go. I think I was just not centered as much for the video, at least. Don't know what, I guess it's just a little different on Zoom. Overall, I thought the Penguins first period, mostly okay. Second period, not so good. Third period, they really took it to Carolina. And that one, I thought those first 10 minutes, they were getting some glorious chances. Kind of went down a little bit during those last 5 minutes, but then the Penguins were able to get a few more good chances after that. And then they were able to get their first 6-on-5 goal of the season. Really nice job for the Penguins to set that up. And it's funny, they're able to get a 6-on-5 goal and score on that man advantage, but with 5-on-4 and all that other stuff with their actual power play, it's just an absolute tire fire. Please explain that to me like I'm 5, and I'll try my best to explain it to you all a little later on this episode, because the power play is just a dumpster fire right now. But the Penguins, they didn't rush any of their shots once they got in the zone and they set it up with the 6-on-5. There were a couple of times where I thought they were going to rip one when Malkin was at the point, but he's able to give it off to the right half boards, gets it back to Petrie. He rips it. Nice deflection from Gensel to get that past Coochie, as I'm calling the Hurricanes netminder, and also great job from Gensel to just box out Brent Burns. He made Burns just his, I'm not going to say that word on this podcast. I think you all will know where I'm going. His personal, what, and it's just Burns had no chance of just getting in the way of Gensel. Really nice deflection, able to tie the game with 50 seconds left. That is a goal scorer's goal, and who else but Jake with that situation. Sidney Crosby was able to open the scoring, gets his 12th of the season. Really nice job, I thought, from P.O. Joseph to spring Gensel in the offensive zone, who was able then to get it to Crosby, who got it past Coochie. That breakout pass from P.O. was awesome. He's really starting to feel it. I think right now he's playing some of his finest hockey of the season. Definitely looking like he belongs in, Gensel, Crosby, their connection is money. At this point, overall, underlying numbers wise, the Hurricanes led the way at 5-on-5 with 52% of the shot attempts, so the Penguins led the way in scoring chances with 63%, high danger, 64% of those chances that they actually held the Hurricanes to only one high danger chance in the third period at 5v5. Very nice job defending wise for the Penguins. And then with expected goals, the Penguins had 51.2% of those. If you go to all situations, the Hurricanes, they led the way in shot attempts with 55% of those, but the Penguins led in scoring chances, 59%. They also led in high danger chances, 17-12, but the Hurricanes did lead in expected goals, 52% to 47%. So this game, it was dominated in spurts by both teams. I thought the Penguins for the first 13 to 15 minutes of the first period, they were the better team. After that, I think the Hurricanes were the better team from the about 5 minute mark of the first period through the entire second period. And then the third period, I thought the Penguins were the better team throughout that period before overtime was just a wash until the Hurricanes got their lone chance and they were able to score on that. So, kind of what I would expect. You're not really going to dominate a team like the Hurricanes for a full 60 minutes. They're going to get their chances. The Penguins are going to get their chances. It's all a matter of, who can finish the last one. And unfortunately, it was Carolina's. But, I thought Crosby and Gensel looked great again. POJ was really good. A couple of players that, did stand out to me in a negative way. I thought Tristan was mostly okay, but that second goal just can't go in. The Penguins kind of got a little bit of an unlucky bounce, I thought, on that second goal late in the second period. It went off, I believe it was it Dumoulin's skate in the neutral zone, goes right to Aho. He rips the shot. Should have easily been a glove save by Tristan. Don't know how it wasn't. And, he just wasn't able to, fully grip on it. And then the puck goes behind the net. Svechnikov comes and gets it. And Jarry is just way too late to react to getting to the other side of the post. Svechnikov has an easy wraparound for a 2-1 lead. That one can't go in. It was just, I think, a total brain fart from Tristan. Just not good enough for me. Otherwise he played a really good game, made some nice saves, had a couple nice saves on the 2-on-1s, at least when the Penguins power play was just absolutely awful. But, other than that, and other than a couple other good saves, I just did not like the play that he had on the second goal. That's just, there's too many gaffes like that sometimes in his game. He just really needs to, I think, get those out of there, if he really wants to be more consistent in the league. Other negatives wise, I think Brian Dumoulin was a little bit soft in that first goal that the Hurricanes scored to tie it in the second period. And that goal felt like it was coming for a while. The Hurricanes were really rationing up the pressure there on the Penguins. Jarry, really no chance on him, but Dumoulin just kind of standing there, not really doing much. I feel like he needs to have a little bit more of an active stick, if you ask me. Those are the main negatives that I kind of point out tonight. Don't know why Jeff Carter is getting meaningful ice time late in the third period and in overtime. Also, honestly, don't know why he's getting meaningful ice time at all right now, considering how bad he is. The third line continues to be an absolute black hole. I could give you all numbers. They're right out there for you all to see on Natural Stat Trick, Money Puck, whatever site you want to use, Evolving Hockey. It's bad. You can switch out wingers all you want. As long as Carter is your third line center, it's going to be bad. And I think not enough people are talking about how awful he's been for most of the season. It's not pretty. Anytime that line is on the ice, they're not getting any chances. They're defending the entire time. That line is where offense goes to die. And if there's one area that this team really needs to upgrade in, I do think it is that third line. The fourth line, I think, is playing a lot better right now, especially after Teddy Bluger turned. The Malkin line's been great. The Crosby line's been great since Raquel went up there, but that third line is an absolute joke. And even tonight, just not good enough. And honestly, you know what? I am going to give you the numbers for tonight. It was McGinn, Carter, Kapanen. They actually they were even in shot attempts 11-10, but expected goals actually not too bad either. Scoring chances were okay, but still, it's and for actual expected goals, 0.41 expected goals for when they were on the ice compared to, if you look at the Crosby line, 1.09. The Zucker Malkin Rust line was 0.61. The third line was a bit better than the Paling Bluger Archibald. That one actually got caved in tonight, funny enough. But man, that third line, it really is just not doing enough right now, and it's tough to watch. So those are, I think, are most of my main negatives. I'm going to spend the entire third segment going over the power play and what the heck is wrong with it and all that. But overall, I thought it was mostly a fine performance from this team. They got outplayed in spurts. They outplayed the opposition in other spurts. When it comes down to a coin flip in overtime, you win some and you lose some. They got the point. And, I think that should be, at least that should be celebrated a little bit. I know it's not good to start off the homestand with 1 out of 4 points. They still got 3 more games. They got Vegas coming in on Thursday, got St. Louis coming in after that. They have another home game after that as well. But, they got to keep banking points. The Islanders lost tonight, which was big. The Flyers actually beat them, funny enough. The Capitals, they could win tonight. They're out in Vancouver. Last I checked, they were up 2-0 with 2 Ovechkin goals. But, they got to keep banking points in those situations. But yeah, that wraps up this second segment of this recap episode. Coming up after this commercial break, we're going to get into the power play and just, why it continues to be absolute mud. So stick around for that, coming up right after this commercial break. All right, I'm back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. You can also follow the show's Twitter at @Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. So a couple of times tonight, the Penguins were able to get power plays. And no, I think I'm just at the point now where they should just decline them. They're not making any changes with the, what's the word I'm looking for here? With the deployment. On is still the same 5 players. The last few games with Petrie up there, they're not putting Rickard Rakell up there for some reason, even though he has a booming shot and has a great pass in the offensive zone. They're continuing to have Petrie quarterback. And yeah, I know Letang was out tonight, so that makes sense. But still, why is Rakell just not up there? I don't really understand. And even when Letang probably comes back on Thursday because he was out with an illness, it's probably just a little stomach bug. It's probably going to be the same deployment that you see, and they're not going to be making any adjustments. And excuse me, I understand a lot of blame should be at Todd Reardon because he is the one that runs this unit, but also Mike Sullivan does have a hand in this as well. He can change up that deployment whenever he wants. He has a hand in this as well. And honestly, I think Jesse Marshall of The Athletic summed up the power play even better than I ever could. He said tonight, it's reactive in everything they do. The system is stale. Opposing penalty killers know exactly what they will be facing from breakout to the offensive zone. Lack of creativity is directly tied to their best players consistently being bullied to the perimeter of the ice. Jesse, that is 1000% accurate. And I've been seeing that almost every time they come onto the ice. Their best players, 3 surefire Hall of Famers, are not getting to the prime scoring areas, and they're being pushed to the perimeter where that's a low danger area. You're not going to get any good scoring chances from that spot. Other same issues occurred tonight. They're still going backwards to go forwards. You go into the zone, you get one shot on net, it goes back the other way. Even when it sometimes goes in the offensive zone, they make a pass, it gets intercepted. You're going back the other way for 2-on-1s. Evgeny Malkin had a couple brutal passes in the offensive zone that led to a couple chances that Tristan Jarry had to save. It's just an awful unit right now. And I know I get paid to do this podcast to give you the best analysis that I have when it comes to this power play. I'm honestly running out of things to say when it comes to how awful this unit is. It sucks. It flat out sucks. Like, I don't know how much more clear I have to be than that. Nothing about it is good. This is probably the worst Penguin power play I have ever seen in the Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang era. It is unacceptable for the unit with that much talent, even outside of those three, with Jake Guentzel, Bryan Rust, Rickard Rakell, Jeff Petrie. Unacceptable for a unit like that to be that bad. Honestly, at this point, I would start throwing out the second unit to start the power plays to see if they can get anything going, and then putting out the first unit, and see if they want to start scoring in that situation. But it is costing the Penguins numerous chances to take over games. It's killing momentum for them. Everything about it is gross. As Jesse said, it's stale. The best players are being forced to the perimeter of the ice. And another great thing that he said as well, the opposition's penalty kill, they know exactly what is coming every single time. It's so easy to game plan for it. Honestly, I hate saying this and comparing sports. It's honestly like preparing for the Steelers offensive scheme. And you all know, if you are Steelers fans that listen to my show, you go listen to Chris Carter of Locked on the Steelers, who does a great job. Matt Canada is doing a horrible job over there with his scheme. And even though Kenny Pickett's showing some strides each week, you saw that Colts player on Monday Night Football, if you guys were watching that game, saying it's the same damn plays. Well, I think other penalty killers are saying right now, it's the same thing every time with the Penguins penalty kill, with the Penguins power play deployment, and with the way they're playing on that unit. It stinks. Like, point blank. And they got to make some changes with it, because, again, it is killing them right now. So I know I was fired up about that. I apologize if hopefully y'all didn't tune me out, because then I didn't want to turn into a much more of a fan or anything. But, man, that unit just sucks the life out of you. It really does, because of how awful it truly is. But I honestly think that will probably do it for this episode of the Locked on Penguins podcast. I don't really think I missed anything from this game. It was a lot of fun to watch. I would love to see these two teams play in a playoff series. They got the point. Just stinks how the game ended. And, the top line continued to play well. I thought the Malkin line created some good chances. The fourth line was fine. The third line still needs work. And then the power play, of course, continued to just be a joke. But I also will say the penalty kill, almost basically, I think they're at 20 for 20 right now since David Bluger come back on November 15th, 2 weeks ago. The PK is back in the top 10 league wide. It is humming right now, to say the least. So again, that'll do it for this episode of the Locked on Penguins podcast. I apologize I was not on the Restream account for this one. I will have my intro from the Restream account whenever the person that's recording right now finishes. But for this episode, you will be hearing it via Zoom audio and via a Zoom video. So again, that'll do it for this one. Hope you all enjoyed listening to it. I'll be back with another episode on Wednesday to preview that game against the Vegas Golden Knights. And then Thursday, I'll be coming to you live from Pittsburgh, either from my new house or from the hotel room that we'll be staying in that night before I officially fully move into my house on Friday. So again, thank you all so much for listening. Hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday. I will talk with you all on Wednesday.